So with regard to the funding, currently I believe the State Commission on Judicial Conduct has probably given about $1.5 million a year, which is a pittance. It's chump change that has fallen out of somebody's pocket, and they're not even going to miss it. Now, so when you start talking about for different satellite offices, you're going to have a lot more money. And I mean, personally, as opposed to $1.5 million, now this is going to be my opinion, I think that the commission should be funded at the tune of probably $25 million. And maybe that's a little bit high. We'll take $10 to $15 million for right now to start off with. That would be considered a good start, in my opinion. What are your thoughts about that? Because I've also got some ways that I think it could very easily be funded.
So the number is definitely low. I've got the numbers for the other states as well, and had I known I was going to be asked this question, I would have them on the top of my head, and I do not. But I'm thinking the 15 to 25 is probably about what it's going to take. But when you see how much Texas has brought in the last couple of years, that we can absolutely increase this area. We have some reps who that I've spoken with who 100% believe that we need to do some of these things. So I'm not sure what your thoughts are, although we have talked about them at some point. It definitely needs to be state funded. So there.
So I believe it does need to be state funded, but I also have some other creative ways that we could fund this. So for example, we know that in many instances, 80% or more of a judge's donations for a campaign come from law firms and attorneys. And we also know, too, because this is public record that they do this, that there might be the possibility that the judge would say, wow, this law firm gave me so much money, I may be seeing things through their eyeglasses. I may be a little bit predisposed to rule in their favor. And so one of the thoughts that I had is that, say, if attorneys and law firms want to donate to these judges, that's fine. But for every dollar that they donate to the judges, I think maybe we ought to have them give at least $2, if not $3, $4, or $5 to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, because all of these attorneys will tell you, we're not trying to buy justice. We would never do that. So I think that this is a great check and balance. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so first of all, there are limits on what a law firm can donate to a judge. We've talked about this before, and I don't agree with that. I think it needs to come from the state.
Okay. Well, okay, we're going to have another small disagreement there, but that's okay. We are discussing different ways to create judicial accountability. Another thing that I've thought as well, so for example, you have judges right now, and we know that judges are making a lot of money, a decent amount of money, and we know that some of our legislators have actually increased the amount of money that they're being paid each year from our taxes. We, the taxpayers, are paying for these judges. I think we should have some type of accountability from them because we're paying for them. But I've also thought, too, that as far as if you are a public firm, you have to pay for an independent audit to come into your company, and they may do audits of the controls that you have in your company. They may do financial audits. They may do a number of audits. Some companies have a fair amount of money that they spend for audits each year. And to me, I would say as well that the judges will say they make $160,000, more or less, on average. I mean, some more, some less. But I would say that, they're making $160,000, just as an example. Maybe we could have them donate 2 to 3% of their salary back to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct to help fund that. So that way, it's in one sense, it's coming from the taxpayers. Another sense, it's the cost of doing business. Because all of these judges will tell you they're so righteous, they're so just. Well, if that's the case, why not have a little bit of skin in the game to say, look, I agree with you, and so much so that I'm going to be spending a portion of my salary, which is taxpayer funded, to go back so that if there's any suspicion of my misconduct, I could be investigated even with my own money.
You're probably not going to want to put this on here because I'm going to disagree with you again. Because if they do that, they're going to increase their pay to cover that cost. It needs to be a fund that the commission's already set up. It needs to be funded. We know that we have the money in the state. some of it needs to go to the commission so that we have protection.
I do agree with you, but I also know too that the first thing they look at is, well, what's the cost to the state? Oh, it's going to be too much money to. And like you said, I mean, it's really not that much money compared to the money that we do raise and what we do have and everything. It would just be a drop in the bucket. So I agree with you on those those senses. I think in part of it, it's because I've watched the judges a lot of times and I've wondered, can you please justify how much you make? And I don't think that all of them can. I'm not saying that some of them can't.
You know, as far as their pay, first of all, attorneys make a lot more than judges do. As far as their pay goes, it's going to vary per county as far as if $160,000 is a lot of money or not much at all. A judge in Austin, $160,000 isn't much. But one in, say, Montague County, that's a lot of money. They keep it the same amount no matter where you are. So maybe that needs to be looked at. But as far as them paying for this, I don't see that happening. And, it's certainly not anything that I'm going to request.
That's good. Again, we've had some disagreements, but we have the same goal in mind. Yes. And I think the discussion is healthy even when we disagree on things.